Thanks for taking the time to sit down. It's been a while since we last spoke, I believe.
Oh yeah, I mean we
Uh,
did the Jello thing a while back, but I haven't seen you in person since the BL3 launch party.
right, yeah, which that was crazy. Even just remembering that, like
Yeah, dude,
that.
and like now thinking about it in the context of like what the last year has been like that was so stupid. We had so many people in that place.
When was that again? That was still normal times though, so
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was
I mean
fine.
I think the game launched in November, so I think it was late October, early November, something like that. But yeah,
Yeah, that was still perfect. Everything was
I don't
fine.
know.
I rem-
Could never have imagined.
what blissful absolute fools we
Yeah.
were back
And
then.
someday I plan to be exactly as foolish again.
Exactly. Yes. Well, I guess first off, during these times, I know you're a busy guy, but if you have free time, whenever you have free time, what has been occupying? What have you been doing for your free time?
Well, I mean, luckily, my wife and I we've both remained gainfully employed, and so we've been busy enough, which is great. We
Sure.
know we're luckier than a lot of people, but the what little downtime I've got, like I used to be a scenic carpenter, building sets for
Mm-hmm.
plays and stuff, and so like I've just been out in the wood shop, building just bad amateur furniture, which has been fun. I did a kitchen table and some benches for the house. I made a record player bench and a turntable, a little table thing for myself a while back. I just finished a little platform for our washer and dryer. But yeah, I mean, mostly just scoofing around and like attempting new things and failing, and then deciding to just revert back to what I already know. But like a lot of our like evenings, like we just got back from did a bike ride with wife and kids and the two dogs,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It's terrible walking those children and the dogs, but yeah, no, it's but yeah, like I said, fortunately, like it's been Gearbox has been moving along pretty good. Like we had like a lot of studios. I think we had kind of a little regrouping period where when everyone
Sure.
kind of had to figure out how to record remotely and all that kind of stuff, which has been just an ongoing weirdness. But yeah, no.
That's good to hear. Now, as someone who is sort of carpentry, do you ever buy furniture, or you're like, why can you just build that shit?
I usually like what usually happens is my wife comes to me with what she really wants, and I go, "That's really expensive," and then I try to figure out how to do it for cheaper. And usually, like I mean, for the kitchen table, like she found something that she really wanted that was like it was like $1,700, and I was
Okay.
like, "Look, I was like, I know I can get $200 worth of pine, and do something that is very because it was like a farmhouse style or whatever." And so she was like, "You can try it." And if I hate it, then
Yeah.
we're gonna throw it away. And it was a little trial and error, like most everything I built, but she ended up being pretty happy with it. So, but yeah, no, there's definitely a few things where she's like, I want this specific thing, and I want it padded here, and I want a drawer here, and like, drawers is one thing like I've never been any good at because like
Mm.
I kind of learned the ropes when I was like I said building sets for plays and everything. And when you're building sets for a play, like you can make a mistake as long as it's not really visible from like 15 feet away.
Yeah.
And but for cabinetry, there's like a 16th of an inch like room for error, and I'm not that good. So
Gotcha. What's the most ambitious project you've undertaken?
well, so okay, so the record player bench that I made, I've got a small office that used to be we moved into this house like right before lockdown orders hit, and
Mm. Okay.
so like all of a sudden, kind of the moving in and like deciding where everything went process became home office exploration as well. And so I kind of decided to cram as much of the me centric stuff as we could into one room. And so
Mm.
but I also wanted, it's a pretty small room. And so I wanted to make some record storage that was also like modular and could be like used in different ways. So I
Sure.
basically built three little benches of identical length and height. And the middle one, I actually made 3/4 of an inch shorter than the other one, so I could have two pieces of 3/4 ply that would fold on top of it
Okay.
when it wasn't in use. And so when it's all folded together, like it's the same height as the other benches, but we can also like they kind of strap together or like hook together. And but if I unhook them, they're on casters, and so I can move them around, and there's seating, and the middle table folds out into a board game table.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we used it a couple times. It's been pretty fun. I know like I'm actually like embarrassed to even talk to you about board games because like this is like we just discovered Ticket to Ride, and like we think we're
Oh
like,
shit.
dude, yeah, like so I don't know, but but yeah,
Are you playing that with your family, with friends, both?
yeah, well, mostly like so we've got some friends that are really into board games, and so every time they come over, they bring something that they want us to try out, and they've learned that especially with me, like I need to be able to learn the rules in like 5 minutes. Like
Okay.
I
Got
don't
it.
I cannot like I do not have the capacity to understand like the Settlers of Catan stuff or whatever. Like it will never make
Mm,
sense to me.
sure.
But like they brought over like Azul a while back, which is super fun, and so
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, Ticket to Ride, like we really like. So we play it with them. We've tried the scaled back version with the kids, but mostly they just like throwing trains at each other. So
Okay.
yeah,
Ticket to Ride is great, though. I mean, that's an example of a game that's easy to learn,
yeah,
but satisfying to play. Like
yeah.
it's just a very,
Well, and
very
like
elegant, just making trails and
yeah. Well, and like
making routes.
I
It's fun.
lost the first time. The first time we played, I lost the first round, and it was because, well, partly because I misunderstood the rules, but like I
Mm,
also like I figured out what the mistake was in my strategy, and so far I haven't lost again since. And I only get competitive at games I can win, and
okay.
but yeah, like I mean, me and my wife, like our go to game is dominoes. Like we keep a set of dominoes in the car, and every time
Mm,
like we go out to like a little patio bar or something like that, we take the dominoes and we sit and we play. We stopped keeping
sure.
score. We used to keep score in like this little journal, and like we would always date the games, and then like whatever like what it was like whoever was keeping score, we'd like write a little blurb about what was going on our lives with the kids or whatever. And so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
been kind of cool because it goes back to like 2006 or something. Like actually before we even
Wow.
met, like I used to use it way back when. But I
Sure.
like dominoes because I learned the rules really quickly. I've spent a lifetime like not being great at it, but like learning. And I don't know. That's kind of my jam. I like that.
I'm glad to hear that you enjoy like the games at all, though. So even though like nothing super complicated, but stuff like something like Azul, right?
Yeah.
Where I think Azul it has like sort of this timeless quality feel to it, right? Like this feels like a game that's been around for like ages, but
Yeah.
it's brand new. But it has that nice. Have you played the other Azuls? Like there's the first Azul, and then there's the stained glass one. Have you played that one?
No. We've only played the one.
Okay.
So is
I
it like
think
similar concepts?
Yeah, similar concept. It's the idea of like you still have those circles and you're like draft like picking colors from them. But there are two other games in the series and they have different like they're a little more complex, but I think you would still have fun with them. There's the stained glass of Sintra where you're getting like these sort of stained glass diamonds in the same way and you're kind of putting them in columns. And then there's the new one, Summer Pavilion, where what is it like? They're almost like star shapes. Like you're making star shapes with these different things. If you like that sort of take that of I'm gonna take this color and shove these in the middle, and oh fuck you over with this. I would say check them out, or get your board game centric friends to buy it,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then bring it over or something. But
Yeah, nice. No, we did. So,
um,
like, for my birthday a couple of years ago, we wanted to do a board game night, and and my wife and I talked about we wanted to do like some kind of murder mystery, something kind of game, like not like a full on like murder
mm,
mystery party, whatever. But like we went to I can't remember the name of the game store around here, but we found one that looked pretty cool. It had like a haunted mansion on the front and everything, and so like we got it.
okay.
It said like the word Amityville was in the title somewhere, and like we got it. We brought it back home, read through the instructions. Seemed a little bit more complex than I was used to, but I was like, it'll be fun. We had I think 4 other people coming over, so 6 total, and I recounted the rules as I understood them. We started playing. Everyone got very confused very quickly, and at one point we ended up going back to the instructions, and it said like for questions, Q&As, or whatever, like go to this website. And we're like, great, and we went to the website, which had been dead since 2009,
Wow.
and
Okay.
and like all of like what remained was like people just like in all caps like, don't buy this game. I'm like, no. So
Did you get it? Was it like on sale, on
yeah,
discount?
oh, it was an
cheap?
extreme discount, and now I know why. Yeah,
Mm.
so we all learned a lot.
So I'm searching this game on. There's a site called Board Game Geek, which
Okay.
is like it is the directory of like literally almost every, not almost, pretty much every board game ever made is on the website. You can search it, and it's really handy because it not only does it tell you like how many players, it tells you rough play time, and it
Okay.
tells you a complexity rating, which is like the most valuable thing for me. If it's like a 1 to 2, anybody can learn it. I think like even my parents can like learn it. 2 to 3. Not bad. And still, I think anyone can learn it. Once it gets 3 and higher, because it goes up to 5, that's when it's like, ooh, maybe these are for, more heavier board game fans. Amityville, I searched it. I only found one thing, and barely anyone has played this game. I think this might be haunted.
No, okay, no. So actually, I realized as soon as I said it, it's the wrong A word. So it was called, and I remember it now, the Aberdeen Affair.
What the hell? Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Aberdeen Affair. Let me look this up. I'm very curious. Aberdeen. Oh, the Amberden Affair.
There you
Amberden?
go. Okay, we'd get there. I knew we'd get there eventually. So it sounds. No, I've never played Among Us, but it sounds like a very primitive version of what I
Okay.
would imagine Among Us is. But yeah, it didn't go well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I see. Have you played? First off, going off like murder mystery stuff. Have you heard of the game Deception, Murder in Hong Kong? You ever heard of that?
No.
So I think you would like this a lot if if you wanted something with that kind of flavor of like solving a mystery. And have you ever played a game like Among Us, like Werewolf or Mafia or any of
Yes.
those kind of games?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like those kind of games?
I love that. Yeah.
Okay. So Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. What this game is essentially all of you are detectives, and one of you is a silent clue giver, and the silent clue giver is trying to give clues to direct the detectives to find the murderer. The thing is, one of you is the murderer, and no one knows who that is. And so everyone's got these like cards in front of them. It's like 5 murder weapons and 5 evidence cards in front of everybody. And the murderer picks the answer while everyone else's eyes are closed.
Okay.
So the silent clue giver knows who the murderer is and is trying to put down these sort of like bullets on these like clues to try to direct the group towards who it is. So it might be, for example, the victim's body was strangled. So everyone's looking, okay, who has like something you could strangle somebody with? And then the murderer is meanwhile trying to deflect, like, oh, look at that card. Like, do you think it might be that? Or, oh, I don't think it's it's my card because, blah, 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 blah. It's that kind of game. It's
I like that a lot.
Fun. It's easy to learn. It's a great party game.
Nice.
I would highly recommend, if you ever see it at like your board game store, pick that up. Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. It's a huge hit at like parties because everyone gets into it, and with a lot of trader games, I love trader games. But what's nice about that one is everyone can kind of just dive in immediately because you're just looking at people's cards, going, okay, does that first clue mean this card? Does it mean this card? And it's an immediate discussion. Other ones are more of like a slow burn. But this one is just like, damn, let's just get to it. And fingers start pointing, and you're just trying to figure out who it is.
So we've been like, like I said, we moved into this house like right before lockdown and everything. And it was funny too, because like we moved for 2 main reasons. Like one, I was spending about 2.5 to 3.5 hours a day on my commute to and from Funimation. And then and not much less when I moved over to Gearbox. But we were in the house my wife wanted and everything. But like, so I wanted to cut down on my commute, and she wanted a place with kind of a bigger like family area that we could do like dinner parties and like entertain guests and everything. So we're like, great, cool. We like finally jumped. We made the move, and then COVID happened, and like I don't have a commute, and we can't have people over. So it's like, well, this is crap. But so now we're coming up on our second vaccines, and we got some friends that are equally vaccinated or will be soon. And so she was talking about having like an actual murder mystery dinner theater or dinner kind of party. And so like we've been poking around and everything, but like everything is. It seems a little involved a lot of kind of like cliques and like
Mm,
breaking people up into groups and everything. But that actually sounds like it might be like just as fun without being as like complicated, I guess, or
sure, sure.
involved. So that's worth looking into.
There's this. I have not played this game, so I can't vouch for it. Let me look up the name of this. It's a pretty new game that everyone's been talking about called Blood on the Clock Tower.
Okay.
Ooh, might be a little heavier, but if you had somebody who like, if you know like a board game friend, they might be able to run it for you.
Okay.
But from what I've heard, it can play up to 20, which is, but it's a game that like, a storyteller runs it, and people are like, it's another bluffing game of like, there's good guys and bad guys, and you're trying to figure out who everyone is. And then during nighttime phases, you close your eyes, and it's one of those kind of werewolf style games, but it's from what I've heard, it's pretty crazy. I think it even involves like going to different rooms and stuff, like to discuss things. Like, it's one I've definitely been wanting to try. I don't own it, but I think a friend or two own it, and I am curious. I hear good things.
I want to talk to me and Ian Sinclair is a good friend of mine, and we had like a date night, game night kind of thing a while back, and he brought over a game, and I've never remembered what it was called. I need to ask him, but it was sort of like it was like an escape the room in your own house / like haunted mansion sort of thing, and it was really fun, but it was memorable because like Ian ended up being kind of effectively the dungeon master of the game, and like if you give Ian a role to play and tell him he can pick out a character voice, like oh my god, like it was super fun.
Sure,
but,
sure.
But yeah, it was one of those that I remember I was like always just like 2 steps behind the rest of the group. Like I mean, like they had solved the puzzle by the time I understood the rules, and I was like god dang it, but it was fun. I didn't figure what.
Do you remember? It sounds like, was it Mansions of Madness?
It might have been. It might have been because is that one where like you're kind of building the mansion like as you go and like you open up different areas? Okay, then yeah, I think that's what it was.
How long ago was this?
I mean, it's at least 5 years.
That might have been Mansions. So there was no app then running it. It was a person was running it.
Yeah, if there was an app, we didn't use it. So yeah, Ian was definitely running the show. Yeah.
Then it sounds like it might have been Mansions of Madness, because that's a game where you're putting down rooms as you explore the mansion.
Yeah.
And there's like people you talk to and a mystery you're solving.
Yeah.
It sounds like that.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think what can also help with games like that is if you have someone who has played it, who can just kind of like run it and also explain it well. Like I think I'm a pretty good rules explainer in that it's like you don't have to flood everyone with all the information up front.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of games, it's often just, this is what you do on your turn. You do this, this, this. If other things come up, we can explain it later.
Right.
But your basic structure of a turn is just this, 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 and then that's it. Most games boil down to that, and if it's more complicated than that, I wouldn't have brought it to like this group or whatever. Like there's also this sort of, you have to be very mindful of like who's playing, right? Like if you're all big fucking board game nerds, then I'll bring anything. I'll bring like the heaviest game I can bring, and let's just go. But if I know that it's a mixed group, like some people are pretty new to it, you're not gonna bring I think it's up to the person bringing the games to make sure you cater to the right audience. I did not know that Ian was a big board game guy. I'll have to. Is he the like the board game fanatic? Or
well, honestly, like, there are very few fanaticisms that Ian doesn't dabble in.
Because I know he's big into food. I know he and I connected over food and video games. I didn't know about the board games though.
I don't know if it's like necessarily like an extreme passion of his, but it's it's definitely like he finds out about something, he gets really excited about it, he gets really into it for a few months and then moves on to the next thing. Like he's actually, so when my first son was born, we actually officially named Ian as the nerd father. So like he is my oldest son's he's in charge of and responsible for my 5-year-old's video game and comic book development.
Nice. Okay.
Ian found out that we had given him a set. We've been reading him like for bedtime stories. We have a set of DC like superhero bedtime books. He was livid with me. He was like, "How dare you introduce a kid of his age to DC. Don't you care about story? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
What did he recommend instead?
Well, so he basically was like, as long as it's like heavily Batman, I'm fine with it. But like he really, there are a lot of like Marvel things that he wants to start introducing him to, and like honestly, I don't even have enough frame of reference for that to even tell you what he's been talking about, because like I'm so not of that world. But like but almost every time, like it's been over a year since we've seen him in person, but like every time he would come over to the house, he and my kid would go out in the backyard and play superheroes. And so like they would each pick a superhero and then fight, and Ian would use that as a teaching opportunity to say, no, actually he can't do that, but what he does do it was pretty funny.
That's great. Now, do you have any like super nerdy interests? Like, I don't know if we've ever like really broken this down. Like, because I know you're big into the carpentry, but like, what do you have any like? Okay, I'm like a big nerd about this or that.
I mean, not really, not any one thing, because like I kind of bounce around in my interests too. Like I'll get really into like an anime and I'll blast through it all in like 2 weeks, and like I'll talk about it for like a month. But then like I go find a video game or a movie or whatever. Like I know we talked about this a ways back, probably like when we took you out to dinner after your first session on BL3. But like my nerddom, even though it's kind of all over the place and like I never really settle on one thing, but the one like through line that's always been there is like I love storytelling. I love like different ways to tell stories. Like that's why like I don't have a TikTok. I mean, I technically do have never done anything with it, but like I love TikTok because it's a method of storytelling that is brand new. People are doing fascinating and really innovative stuff with it. Like right. I dig that. Like I even like trash reality TV just because like I mean like sure. the stories are so like I get blasted through all of like the second season of The Circle, which is like the best worst show I've ever seen. But like I don't know, man. Like I've always been into classic rock and whatever, but like nothing that's like like super nerdy. I will say though that like not long after kind of everybody went into quarantine, some voice actor friends of mine were talking about starting up a D&D campaign, and I was like, and I asked, so Tyson Reinhardt is the DM, and I asked him, I was like, hey, okay. I have asked friends before. I've always been curious about D&D, but I've never understood it. And every time I've asked someone to explain it to me, like it seems to defy explanation. Like, and I've never gotten anywhere closer to understanding it. And so like when you guys start your campaign, do you guys mind if I just like sit in and watch? And he was like, why don't you play? And I was like, man, my schedule is really erratic, and with the kids and everything, like, I don't know if I'd be able to, like, if it's cool with you, I'm just going to watch. And so I did. And like after like 6 weeks, I realized that like one of the guys, it was Josh Martin, who plays Boo on Dragon Ball and a bunch of other stuff, that he was almost never there. Like he was busier than me. But every time I was just like, oh, yeah, Drip was drunk the night before, and I was like, oh, I didn't know it was that easy. So after a while, like Tyson helped me set up with a character, and I've been playing with him ever since. And we actually haven't played the last 2 weeks, and now like it's oddly enough, like I've only like pretty recently started to even kind of vaguely know what I'm doing. Sure. Like we've taken 2 weeks off, and I'm like itching, like man, come on, like we just got to the castle.
What's your character's what is your character?
So I am a tiefling rogue.
Okay.
We started. They started me off at level 4 because that's what everybody else was by the time I jumped in. I think we're at level 6 now. Mostly, like I have like pretty much maxed out my sleight of hand and stealth and stuff. So like I'm picking the pockets of even like my own party members like pretty constantly. Like if they like buy a cool thing that I want, like I just immediately steal it. but yeah, it's been super fun. But I will say there was a really fun moment like a few games in, like after I'd played like 2 or 3 rounds with everybody, and I'd been kind of like hyper focused on not embarrassing myself because like I was so green.
Sure.
My whole mindset like in those first few rounds was like what am I allowed to do? Like what like I need to keep track of like my movement, my action, my bonus, whatever, like just my reactions, everything. And it was just like it was really kind of stressing me out, and I wasn't very good at it. But like there was a moment where I remember we were in some kind of like underground cavern sort of thing, and all of a sudden, like it's my turn. We're in initiative, and like this like sentient suit of armor, like it's like 6 feet tall, like steps in front of me. And Tyson was like, "Okay, what do you do?" And I was like, admittedly a little drunk, and I was like, "I crawl inside the armor." And he was like, what? I was like, is it better armor than mine? He's like, yeah. I was like, I crawl inside and I make it my armor. And he was like, oh, okay. He was like, hey, we actually need to take a 5-minute break so I can figure out how we're gonna do this. And I was like, yay! So like my whole style of play has since shifted to like from what am I allowed to do to like what is so out there that it makes the DM call a break. And since then it's just gotten a lot more fun. Like I'm sure Tyson's kind of over me right now, but like I'm having a great time.
That's great. No, my wife is super into D&D. I actually have very little experience with it. But,
okay.
A lot of guests on the podcast have been like, you gotta play, So I think for me, I think it's just like a matter of time. I've played it once, and I had a good time, but it was not something that like stuck. Like I wasn't like, oh man, I gotta keep. It was a one shot anyway. So I think it's something where if the right opportunity came along, I may like jump into one at some point, but it's not something I'm like chasing.
Doesn't like Critical Role have like guest spots on every once in a while? Like, I mean, you know.
Oh, I mean, listen, Critical Role does, but that's like the gold. Like, I don't want to. You have anxiety about playing with your friends. Yeah. I don't want to go on fucking Critical Role and make an ass of myself like the second time I played D&D.
You'll have death threats, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, who's this fucking moron? Like, I think for me, probably the best opportunity is like, because I got friends who are DMs, and I know I think what I've also noticed with everyone that I know who plays D&D is they're all very welcoming. They're all like, oh yeah, you should just try, you should play it, like. So I think I will at some point. I think for me, maybe also finding other people who haven't played and then getting an experienced DM. That could be kind of like a good way to jump in. And
yeah, I know there were some people that recommended like different like podcasts and stuff, like specifically for people that like were pretty low level. I can't remember what any of those like Dungeons.
Are you like
Dumbasses or something? I don't remember.
Dungeons and Dumbasses.
Yeah,
there is like Adventure Zone. That's like a comedic one. Obviously Critical Role.
Yeah.
I know. Some friends of mine run one called Dungeons and Daddies. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I would have remembered that.
That was great. I haven't listened to it, but they're a bunch of dads.
Okay.
Like all their characters. No. Not, I mean, not the players. The characters.
Oh.
They are all playing dads going through a D&D adventure.
I like
that. It's a pretty great concept. Now you said something earlier that actually caught my interest. So you mentioned watching anime. Was this watching an anime on your own, like without, not related to work?
Yeah. So I've been acting since I was a kid. It's always been a big part of my life. But when I started at Funimation, Colleen Klinkenbeard brought me on. They needed kind of a temp, not quite an assistant director. Like they needed someone to come on for a contract or two to kind of get people, get them caught up on a few series that they didn't have time for.
Sure.
And so Colleen and I knew each other through the theater world, and that's how I met like Travis Willingham and Laura Bailey, and I think I met Troy Baker once at a bar. But anyway, I kind of knew of the voiceover world, but I was pretty locked into the theater world, and I was like, nah, like it's more noble to be poor and do shit that nobody sees, But so Colleen brought me on at one point to see if I might work out, and so there was 2 weeks of training, and at that point, like I was kind of doing just gig work, and so I didn't have a steady job, and it seemed like a good thing to kind of loop into my different gig work and all that. But I after 2 weeks of training, I was about to get thrown into my first series, which originally they were going to put me on a show called Negima.
I know Negima.
And I knew enough because I'd been training on it. I'd been watching Colleen direct it and everything. But like at one point, Colleen was observing me while I did some rewrites and worked with some of the actors and everything. And she's like, "Okay, I need to find a different show for you." And she was like, and I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Well, you can't write for women, and I don't think you listen to us." I was like, oh, okay. And she was right. Like I was like, I had no idea what I was doing. But so she put me on
Sure.
Tsubasa season 2, which was fun. And it was good
Mm.
for kind of training wheels because of course the first season had already happened. It was a really strong cast with like Jason Lee Briggs and Monica Rial and Sabat and a bunch of others, like some big names. And so it
Mm.
was like I just kind of got to like learn while they were just doing what I was, what they'd already been doing. But like, but anyway, before all that to say that like before I went into my first contract with them, I went to one of the producers, Michael Harcourt, and I was like, "Hey, I don't want this to get me fired, but I feel like I should admit to you now before I sit down and start directing my own show. I've never seen an anime, like any of
Mm.
it ever." And like
Yeah.
I told that story once at a panel at an anime convention, and I was almost run out of the room with pitchforks because I mean I knew how to act and I knew how to direct. I just didn't know
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the medium, and so like so I asked him, I was like, is there any way that you can let me borrow a series that like will kind of show me what a good anime is so that I can kind of like
Sure.
know what bar to shoot for. And he did, to his credit, he told me, he was like, well, it's going to be kind of hard to do that because like, like anime is a medium and like there's so many different styles and
Mm.
genres within it. It's, you can't just say like, show me what a good movie is. And I'm just going to do like that because like a good movie could be any different kind of genre. So, but
Sure.
anyway, he gave me Beck Mongolian Chop Squad.
Oh, that's a good choice.
Dude,
Okay.
and I didn't know what I was getting into, and I got so absolutely sucked in. Like I think I'd given myself 4 or 5 days to watch the whole thing, and I was done
Sure.
like a day and a half. Like I just blasted through it,
Mm.
and so yeah, it was really eye opening. And then I got to work with like I'd never met Brina before, and so like I kind of heard her singing in that before I even met her, and so by the time I met her, I was already
Mm.
starstruck and like,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, like once I started, working full time at Funimation, it became really difficult to like, it's like that. Wasn't that a thing on Friends or something like that? Like if you're working at a coffee shop all day, the last thing you want to do is go to a coffee shop
Right.
after work or whatever. But like, it got really difficult to like get engaged with a show that I wasn't like being paid to work on.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
since then, like I mean, my kids have started getting into anime. They've been watching stuff on
Hmm.
like Netflix and YouTube and everything. Like I don't even know what show they're watching half the time, but like I'll sit with them and but yeah, it's been like anime was a really fun thing to learn the ins and outs of because like and I mean the fandom for a lot of anime series, like I mean it doesn't get much more intense than that. So like you got to come
It's yeah.
you got to come correct. Like if you're working on a show, you got to know it backwards and forwards. So
Right, right. What was the last anime you watched that wasn't work related?
And I know I came late to the party on this one, but because I'd heard about it for years, but we watched the dub of Death Note
Oh,
with
okay.
some friends a while back, and yeah, man, like I always love watching other studios stuff because like at
Mm-hmm.
Funimation, like I tend to know the style, I know the directors, I know a lot of the cast that is going to get used, and so like I love watching stuff that's done by other studios because I get to be impressed by their methods and by their casts and by the
Mm.
writers and everything, and like that was a good show. I will say that like it made no sense. Like I mean, like I have to imagine that the manga made more sense because I would assume they took more time to like explain, but like in the anime, like there was just some really extreme jumps in logic that like I had a hard time following. Again, I love the performances. I thought Light was amazing. It was super fun. I loved it.
Yeah, no, that it's that at this point, you could call it a classic. God, that makes me feel old.
Yeah,
But,
no, you're right.
yeah, it's just a solid, over the top, fun, just sort of twist and turn show. Yeah, that's a good one.
I got hit up a while back by a fan, not of mine, but of Initial D, which I was lucky enough to work on, and on one of the several iterations of it because it's been around a long time. It's been passed around,
Yeah.
the guy was asking me if I would help him with a campaign, like start a petition and like get Funimation to dub the fifth stage or something like that. And I was like, man, like we did that show like more than 10 years ago. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, first off, none of us are going to sound like kids anymore. Like, I don't think that's gonna work. And second, like, we're all tired. Some of us are probably dead. Like, I don't know, but like, I don't see it happening. But that was fun.
But it just goes to show that, like you said, the the passion of the fans for stuff like anime and games it's
that was one of the things that like kind of really struck me when I first started getting involved in anime. It was like, I mean, I was used to doing, like I said, theater, and like I love theater because there's like an immediacy to it. Like if you didn't see that performance that night, you didn't see that show, you know. And so like I loved that. I loved the like living, breathing nature of the thing, and how like urgent it was. But like there's a lot to be said for, you know, putting something down on a DVD or a streaming service that like I was thinking about this the other day. I was like someday like some great grandkid of mine is going to be doing like a family tree project in like school, and like there's going to be like a link to some like Sekirei or something. Like, this is just like, it cracks me up. I love that.
Oh man. Now I like to give the guests an opportunity. Is there a topic that you would like to bring up, and or is there a question for me that you would like to ask? Obviously, if you don't have anything, don't worry about it. I got other shit we can talk about.
I actually want to mention something that like we talked about a long time ago, and I feel like I stuck my foot in my mouth so bad with you. And I do you even know where I'm going with this?
I think I do. Are we talking about you not the maybe hesitation?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Of wanting to cast me or not cast me, but
audition.
Send me the audition.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
sure,
okay.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Sure.
All right. So and I maybe didn't explain myself terribly well at the time, but either way, like the main thing is I want to prostrate myself before you and apologize so much because I didn't know. Like that's the thing. So like well, and now like I just God, like everybody knows. But so like when we were working on Borderlands 3, and it was my first project with Gearbox, and I wanted to make a good impression. You know, if anybody's played BL3, you know that like there's a heavy element of kind of streamers and VTubers kind of like run amok.
Yes.
And so there was and it was I love the villains in that game. It's super fun, and a lot of fun stuff happened. But like there was some interest early on among some of the writers and producers to include people that were of that world, and so not only kind of hit a wider market, you know, with you know, or hit a wider audience and everything, but also to like find and feature people that, you know, could, you know, bring their own kind of unique take and everything to the property. Sure. And it all kind of would come together. And I was like, you know, that's a really interesting idea. And so we talked to a lot of people that were maybe not influencers, but like, you know, were kind of like leaders in their own little, not little, but like their little subsets of the industry. And what a lot of us found out really quickly was that like these people were definitely like hardcore entertainers, like just absolutely just like powerhouse entertainers. But like what became evident a few times anyway was that like, you know, there's a lot of crossover between acting and entertaining, you know, in those realms, but it's not always a one-to-one. And so like we heard some really fun performances, but like nothing that really fit not nothing, but not many that were fitting the style of what we're looking for. And so when we got down to like kind of the final stages of casting, we've got to lock this in. We need to start like recording in earnest. And then Sam came to me with your stuff. He was like, I want you to send on an audition to this guy. And I was like, dude, we don't have time for this anymore. I was like, I know some actors. I'm going to reach out to some actors. We're going to, you know, do a big, you know, casting call and everything. And he was like, just try it. And so I shot you off an email, and I remember you emailed back. I was like, hey, would you be interested in this? Is this the correct email address? I think you emailed me back within like 3 minutes, like, and you're like, sure, go for it. And so I sent you the side. You had me a read by the end of the day. And after I heard your audition, I played it for everybody else. And then I went to your Twitter page and I looked at your bio, and it said voice actor. It led with voice actor, and then it was like, and sometimes YouTuber or something like that. And I was like, I had this dude totally backwards. And dude, and like, and since then, like, you know, every time you post like your visual reel or whatever, like, you know, I always check it out. And like, not only like do you have this just like really wonderfully bassy velvet voice, but like it's all over the place, man. Like you've got range like very few people have that have worked professionally in this industry for a long time. And so yeah, and I know I mentioned that story to you very briefly in passing, and you're just like,
but first off, I appreciate the kind words. I will say, you know, I thought it was funny because First, I appreciated the honesty, right? Because that was at the we had done our first session, right? And we were getting dinner, I think, afterwards, right? And with a bunch of the writers and the staff, and I was like, yeah, you telling me this opens up like a level of honesty that I genuinely appreciate. Because you didn't have to tell me this, right? But it like and then I also 100% understood because for me, like like I'll fucking call it out. Well, maybe I won't. Okay, so every now and then you'll hear like some streamer or some YouTube person be like, yeah, I'm gonna become a voice actor, it's gonna be so easy. Like very, I don't know, I'm sure you don't follow streamers. I don't follow streamers at all, but this was like months ago. There was a very big streamer, he actually one of the biggest streamers in the world, and he's like, I'm gonna be a huge Hollywood actor, and I'm gonna do voiceover, I'm gonna do everything. And in my mind, I was like, can you act?
Yeah.
In the I forgot to say it was they go by Ninja.
Yeah, sure.
And so it was funny in that exact same interview. He was like, I do a really good Jim Carrey Grinch impression.
Sure.
And then in the interview, they're like, can you do it for us? And he's like, maybe not right now. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you can't do your really good Jim Carrey Grinch impression on the spot,
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe you can act on the spot. Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, and there's like there were a couple, and I won't name names because I don't remember them. But there was one guy in particular that one of the writers was like, hey, check out these YouTube clips or whatever. And so like I'm watching this guy, and like it was a very improvisational kind of style was his bag.
Sure.
And I'm watching it, and I was like, holy crap, they're absolutely right. Like this guy's awesome. He's really funny. The voice is really engaging. Like it's got a great energy. And so I found his email address, and I shot him the audition sides, and what came back was not that. And it was just I could tell it was like he was very comfortable like improving and like creating his own content, but like you ask someone to read a script and then like all of a sudden it becomes reading a script. It's just a skill set that not everybody falls right into. Now that being said, like I've definitely like auditioned some people that like had no acting experience whatsoever, and I'm just like, holy crap, why aren't you like doing this all the time now? Like it's amazing, but like it's pretty rare, and it's when people want to get involved and like want to start their own careers, like you have to go through all the like classes and workshops and training, or at least do some theater or whatever, like learn what you're doing, because like you don't want to just like try and fail and like create a really bad taste in everybody's mouth and like waste any chance you could have had. But
yeah, for sure. Like so like I totally like understood when you told me the story, like because it's like, yeah, I mean, you want to get an actor, you don't want to like hire somebody just because they're a known name or whatever, and they're not like good at what they do. And I think it's funny. I think in some cases, like if I actually prefer when the director or casting director has no idea about any of the YouTube stuff, because then it's just like a clean slate. I can just go in and show them what I can do. But every now and then I know I can kind of get the sense that they're kind of like wondering. They're like, okay, I'm like, and this guy is this, and then I start, and then I can feel like the relief of like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Okay, like he knows what he's doing, and I think that earlier on that was also more some like, I think at this point, I've been doing. I mean, even before Borderlands 3, I had been working for a while, and now by this point, I think there's less like, who's this YouTube guy? I think I've demonstrated that I at least know what I'm doing. But yeah, no. I truly, to me, it was like a level of honesty that I appreciated, and like, because sometimes people ask like, hey, does it like ever being known as a YouTube person or whatever, does it ever affect like things? And yeah, I mean, sometimes it can, like sometimes in minor ways, sometimes in I think I've been very fortunate. It's been very, very few times where it's actually affected anything. But it can happen, and it's interesting to me because I view because I know a lot of people who also did a lot of stuff online or gotten well known online, but they're also either very active voice actors now or are starting to get into the profession. And to me, it doesn't feel any different from you see a lot of before internet, not before internet, but before the internet was huge. It was where did you find voice actors? In stand up, in theater, in other mediums, right? I think that person. You hear that story all the time. I was doing a stand up show, and then a voiceover agent is do you ever thought about doing voiceover? To me, in this day and age, it's just that's what online. That's what even TikToks are even now. It's you can showcase your skill set,
yeah,
to a wide audience. Starting from nothing it to me, it doesn't read any different than oh, I was a stand-up comedian and then I was discovered. Oh, I was in a play and I got discovered. Now, is that going to immediately translate? Yes, I can make TikToks, but can I act? Of course not. But in some cases, some people might either have a knack, like you said, a natural sort of knack for it, and or you never know. You never know what maybe they are have been working on voice acting for a long time, and got known for that.
Patton Oswalt a while back told a story about getting cast as Remy the Rat in Ratatouille, and it was apparently the direct. I don't know if he cast him outright because of it, or if he got an audition because of it. But he had done as part of a stand-up set years prior, this 4-minute section on this Taco Bell burrito bowl or something like that, and
I think was it the KFC
that's
the KFC bowls?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love that because there's a lot to that. If you hear somebody that absolutely commits and lets their passion kind of just bubble to the surface and that, I mean, that can be really exposing and liberating, and so if you can see who someone is through their art, I think you get a pretty good window into what they could bring to the table. Whether or not they're able to right then and there, that remains to be seen. But yeah, dude, actually there was something, I don't think I've ever told you this. So at the Borderlands launch party, I brought a couple of friends. I brought my wife, and I brought my brother-in-law. And because he's a huge game guy, and the party was, you were there, it was rocking, there was live music and dancers and just amazing food, and it was wild. But he's seeing celebrities kind of moving in and out, and my brother-in-law, and at one point he grabs me by the forearm, and he's like, Joel, and I was like, what? He's like, he's here. I was like, what? And he's like, from the internet. And I follow his eyes, and I look over, and at first I think he's looking at you, and I was like, oh, that's Sungwon, you're talking about ProZD, and he's like, no, dude, behind him, the guy from Movies with Mikey is here. I was like, you mean Mikey? But I didn't realize that's been a something he's been following forever, and he just he couldn't even talk. He was like, can you introduce me? I was like, I don't think I want to. What you're acting right now, but I just thought that was good because if someone gasps and says it's the guy from the internet, I would imagine they were talking about you. But
oh, I didn't even. Oh yeah. I'm familiar with Mikey, his stuff that's cool. I didn't even know he was there. There were a ton of people there, so of course, man, that was a fun, surreal night. Now, these days, you're directing, and I'm sure you're doing some voiceover for Gearbox here and there, but I imagine primarily 99% of directing at this point, right?
Yeah, honestly, more than that. I don't do any acting with Gearbox anymore. Not that I wouldn't love to, but as a director, any role I give myself is a role I'm taking away from somebody else that's at least as deserving. And so, plus, it's not a good look. I at the very end of BL3, we ended up with some last minute add-ins and some changes and everything, and so I ended up up doing a couple of very, very small things just out of um, uh, just necessity, really. But like
Sure,
I've
sure.
made a pretty strong commitment to not really mess with that anymore. And like the only voice acting I'm doing these days is I'm wrapping up my character in My Hero with Funimation.
Mm.
But yeah, it's almost all directing, and I do some coaching. I teach four different workshops, three on different kinds of auditioning for voiceover, and then one for directing voiceover. I do those periodically, but
Mm.
yeah, it's almost all directing. And honestly, I never thought that's where I would land, just because like
Okay.
I'm such a like an actor nerd. Like I just love like being on stage and like not even like spotlight or anything, but like when I was doing a lot of theater, like I used to call it people therapy or people practice, because like
Uh-huh.
to me, like I got social anxiety, like I'm just kind of weird in general, and so like but like when you're on stage, like you have a script, like you've been told where to stand and when to move there and like all that
Mm.
kind of stuff. So to me it was like it felt very comfortable and very natural, and so like I
Yeah.
miss acting, I really do, but like there's something hugely rewarding about working with talented actors and like finding moments and like helping them to connect with an audience, and like convey an emotion, and like I don't know, there's just something really really wonderful about it. So like I've been having just absolutely the best time, and I could not be luckier or happier to be where I'm at. But yeah, acting it's not in the rearview mirror. I figure one of these days I'm gonna get fired. I'm not. It's gonna be fascinating. Whatever I do to get fired, it's gonna be great. But then I'll get an agent, and I'll see if I can do what everybody else has been doing for a while.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, if like, do you miss it? But I'm sure, like, just directing has its own like unique like things that you love about it and are passionate about it. Because you'd been directing, even not even, but directing at Funimation also for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been at Funimation full time, or mostly full time, for 11 years now. I've been at Gearbox for a little over three.
Mm-mm. And so I mean, it totally makes sense that, of course, that you're still directing, but I guess as someone who doesn't direct, I'm just like, uh, what for you? How would you describe sort of like the high, like the sort of highs of the job, like at your absolute best, like this is what I love the most about this job. Like, what are those kind of moments for you, in the when you're directing?
Man, it was God. Honestly, there are very few days where I don't experience some kind of like runner's high of just like, oh my
Mm.
god, it's happening kind of thing. But like, there were just some really really powerful moments, especially like in the Borderlands franchise, where like because Borderlands has this wonderful style where like it's goofy, it's wacky, it's irreverent, it's self aware, breaks the fourth wall at times, like pop culture references on a planet where those things don't exist, like and all of those things play an amazing role into setting the audience up for complete emotional manipulation. And
Mm.
so like if you can kind of play with an audience and you can keep them laughing with you, then it's pretty easy to get them off guard to where you can hit them where it hurts, and like, and not that
Yeah.
that's ever the goal, but like I mean, but there are some pretty heart wrenching moments in all the Borderlands games. Really, I mean, like even
Mm-hmm.
like going back to Borderlands One, like Tannis has like that Colleen plays, that has all these wonderful ecologues that you can find that kind of like outline her descent into like full on loneliness and then even into madness, and like
Mm-hmm.
where Tannis has developed and gone from there is a far cry from what she was in the original Borderlands game. And so like not only like creating these moments, and like finding ways to reach inside your audience's chest, grab them by the heart, and just shake the hell out of them. Like that's always really fun, but also like kind of tracking not just where a character is now, but where they could go from here. Because I mean, a good, well written character is a lot like a person. Like
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
never going to be just like one thing. And so it's really really great to kind of see actors insert themselves into the characters, like actors kind of like grow alongside their characters, and like and just kind of how everybody's approach is different. And like I like so in Borderlands 3, I feel like it's long enough past that we like I don't have to avoid spoilers, but I still feel like I should. We brought Martha Harms in to record for the first time, and she plays Maya and has some storylines too. And I explained to her the full character arc of her in the game, and she just got this like wicked grin that grew across her face, and she was like, she grabbed me by the wrist, and she was like, "Tell me it's gonna be epic." And I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be really," and so she got so excited about like knowing like what was gonna happen. And then conversely, when Colleen was recording her last session on Lilith, and like I explained like what happens to Lilith in the final moments of the game, and she's like, "Wait a minute, what what happened to me?" I was like, "I don't know." So she was like, "You have to tell me." I was like, I literally don't know, and I'm not sure anybody knows. And she got like right up in my face, and she was like, "If you kill me off, McDonald, I swear to God, I will come for you."
Shit.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I love it. I love working with a really talented actor to do what they do best. But there's also like one of my favorite things, and it happens a little bit more rarely, is when you cast somebody in a role that they're not known for, like that's not really their exact like tool bag or whatever. And actors love that. Like actors hate playing the same kind of role over and over and over. And so you give an actor something that's just a little bit outside of their comfort zone, and like most actors, that's where they come to life, and like that's where really really fun stuff starts happening. And when you see someone like latch on to something like that and like make some really amazing things happen, there's magic there, man. I love it.
That's great. And not to get all fucking, this is an anime con, I'm asking you questions at a Q&A, but I am genuinely curious, like if you had like some general like tips for those who are interested in like voiceover direction, like what, like just it can be just some simple stuff, but like because I've worked with a lot of different directors, and not every director I'm super crazy about exactly how they direct, but the majority of them are great, right? But what would you say are either some general tips for people who are interested in doing it, and or things that you would like avoid as a voiceover director?
Yeah, no, well, so I think the main thing is like over the course of your job. I mean, of course, there are going to be a lot of different factors that are involved, but like over the auditioning and casting and recording process, like those are kind of like the main like three facets. Like there's the auditioning process, and that's working with the writers to draft audition sides that like really really zero in on a character, and like and in a well-rounded audition side, or a well-written audition side, each line should be there to test something different, like how the character approaches humor or how loud they can get in combat situations or whatever. So each line should be there for a very specific purpose. And so if you write it that way, then you can better keep an eye out for actors that understand it that way, and that like do their detective work and kind of figure out what each line's there for, and then they show you sometimes several different ways it could be done. And so spending a good amount of time on crafting audition sides that are puzzles where the actor is the last piece. And that's really important. If you don't spend some time on that, you end up like having to re-audition for things and just further explain the character to people because it didn't come across in the first side. So that's you don't really want to skimp there. But and of course the recording process and everything, that's you gotta have a lot of care and tenderness sometimes with the characters. But where I always spend the most of my time is in casting, because if you cast really really well, you don't really have to do very much after that. Like you get seriously, you bring in like really talented people that are smart thinking actors that are going to be able to internalize and understand the character in a way that like you could only dream of, and then you kind of just explain the context and get the hell out of their way. And that's if you spend all of your time on the first two steps of that process, then the third part sort of takes care of itself, and you end up basically just scrolling a Word document so they can read what's below. That's about it.
Gotcha.
What do you know? But I want to know though, like, because I everybody works with directors that aren't their cup of tea, or like everyone's got their own style, and like even if you don't like like you don't like have to dislike a director or whatever, but like you know that you guys don't jive as far as like your methodology. Like, what do you like to you? What's a really strong director? Like, what do they bring to the table? Is it like making you feel comfortable, or like knowing the material backwards and forwards? Like, what defines a good director for you?
I think for me, the most important thing, because I'm trying to think of like what I don't like in like some directors where I'm like, this is not jiving as well. And I think for me, it's just having a clear like idea of knowing what you want, right? Because there have been a couple of times here and there where you work with someone and it's like, I don't think you know what you want, and the way you're directing is either not confident enough, or not like, or it just feels scattershot, in that like by the time you're like, I think we're just kind of you're like giving me contradictory, like almost like directions sometimes. For me, I think the best directors are ones that I think it's very important to just, make the actor feel comfortable, right? Like that's, I think, just almost feels like it should be like a courtesy, but some directors maybe don't care, but that's fine. I think that's important, as well as just a clear, like, I know what I want, because I'm not the type to necessarily be like, I don't want to do it my way. For me, I want it to be like, you're happy with it, that means I'm happy with it. I trust you. I think that's the most important thing, is there has to be a level of trust, where I trust that this director not only knows what they're doing, but cares enough about what they're doing, where they know that it's good enough, or good, or what they're looking for. I don't need to question it or be like, oh, can I do like 10 more takes, or can I do, like, I'm actually the type of actor who I very, very almost never ask for, can I do a retake? I'm just like, you're good, let's keep going. Like, I trust that you know what you need, and I feel like, you know what, even if I ask for a retake, I don't know if you're gonna fucking use it. For me, it just feels like not a waste of time, because I also understand sometimes, an actor being like, oh, I think I can do this better, I think I can blah 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 blah. But for me, the best sessions are ones where there's this trust of like, we both sense that this is good, you know what you're doing, I think I know what I'm doing my best for you, and there's like, we have a complete understanding of how the line should go, and it's just running smoothly. That level of sort of comfort and trust and sort of expertise or know-how, those are like the things that make me go, yeah, I like working with this person. And I will say, like, every Borderlands session, I felt that way sincerely, like, with
Thanks,
you,
man.
like, I never felt like you like didn't know what, like, you knew every little detail about everything, like, that actually impressed. I was like, damn, like, Joel fucking knows his shit, even for like the most minor NPC interactions. I mean, it's your job, of course, but
Right.
for it definitely makes the actor feel very comfortable. So,
Well, man, and for BL3, like, the only reason that I knew everything as well as I did was that I was around as the material was being written, because like by the time we finished, like, all the writers finished all the material for Borderlands for BL3, I think there were close to 900 pages of side quests alone, and then probably another 400 pages of main missions, and then probably 100 or 200 pages of echo logs and miscellaneous, and just like all the other kind of ambient character stuff that you could explore throughout the world, so like learning it piecemeal was super helpful. But like I don't know, man, like and you're right, like I don't think you've probably asked to do another take on something like twice or three times in like all in the whole main game and all the subsequent DLCs. But like if an actor asks for another take, I always give it to them.
Sure.
And except for like, there were very few actors like that are working professionally and consistently that like ask for other takes to like an absurd level, like to where it's just like, dude, we got it, like, please, let's keep going. There's not a whole lot of that, but like, I mean, I always tell the actors, and I'm sure I've told you, like, first, like vocal health is key. Like everybody has to keep me posted on their voice, but also like I want the actor to be as happy with their take as me and the engineer are. And so like if you really want to give another one, just let me know. Like I might not always take that, but I want you to have that opportunity. And but yeah, and especially with talking about the vocal health thing, like I know, especially in like for our enemies and everything, I let everybody know at their very first session. I was like, I don't necessarily know your voice as well as you do, and if you feel it start to go before I notice it, you have to let me know. And if your voice hurts, you tell me and we're done. I don't care if we're 10 minutes into the session, we're done. And so far, and I think that does go a long way towards the trust that you're talking about, because that's important to me too. But like so far, like I haven't had a single actor like take advantage of that. Like everybody knows they could do 15 minutes and then duck out and then come back and do another 15 minutes, like just make money hand over fist left and right. But like so far, everybody seemed to be really, really happy with that. And like, most actors just want to work, and
most actors just want to work, do a good job, right?
Yeah, that's all. Yeah,
they're not there to nickel and dime you like, I need them. They just. I like to think that most actors just love doing what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. But like, I also know what like LA rent is like, and I don't know, dude. Like that's.
Yeah, I think the next sessions I do, I'm just going, sorry. You booked me for 4? Sorry. No. Yeah. I think honestly, a lot of actors are like, man, I'm just lucky to be in the damn booth. Like I'm just happy. I'm happy I'm here. So
I will say, like, so for because I'm sure there are a lot more people that are interested in being a voice actor than are in being a voice director. But like one of the things that I saw at Funimation all the time, and not so much at Gearbox, but was people that would come in for like their very first audition, like, and just be so excited, and like, regardless of how well or poorly they did in their audition, it happened a lot where people would say like, hey, I just want you to know you don't have to pay me. Like, I will come in and do this for free. I'm like, stop it. Yeah. Like, don't offer no money as like your audition. That's not helpful.
Yeah, it's not a good look as fun as it can be. And like, I get that sentiment, because especially early on, it's like you're just desperate to like, I just want to do it, right? Like, but you gotta fake it till you make it. Just you put off a professional air, like, oh, for me this is old hat. Yes, I do this all the time. That I think that goes a long way.
Yeah. I agree.
So yeah. This has been great. We're at an hour, so I think we can wrap it up here. But it's always a pleasure, man, to talk to you. I hope once things clear up, and if you're ever out here, we should maybe I'll show you another good board game or something sometime.
Dude, absolutely, man. That would be amazing. Yeah, man. It's been great to talk to you. Like, I know both of our social lives have been a little lacking of late, so this has been a joy. And yeah, man. Like, like I'm getting my second shot in a couple weeks, and then honestly, my plan is by mid-May, like I'm gonna be checking like Southwests every morning to see just what flights are dirt cheap that day, and be like, I guess I'm going to Pittsburgh. Like
hell yeah.
I can't wait, man. I'm gonna get some.
I am travel hungry too. Where can people find you?
Twitter at yes to ats. If the workshops and everything I teach is through That's So VO, which also has a Twitter page, and Instagram is mostly just pictures of my kids, so I would avoid it, honestly. But that's it.
I just understood your username. Holy shit! Wait. Say okay.
What did you think it was?
I never heard it out loud. Or like, there are a lot of usernames you just don't really read. You just go, oh yeah, whatever, it's that. Yes, dude. That's fucking great.
Well, it is, honestly, I forgot. I didn't even know. So it used to be something different. It used to be at Balls a Poppin', which was a ping pong, no, not ping pong, like a game. What do you call those freaking games? The with the flappers, the pinball game.
Pinball?
God, dang. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was I got the high score on a pinball game called Balls a Poppin' in like South Carolina, and I thought it was a really funny name, and so that was my Twitter handle for a while. And then I vaguely remember the night I changed it. I know vodka was involved, and now I don't know how to change it back. But like it's awful to tell when people ask like, what's your Twitter handle? I'm like, okay, I'm to tell you, but then I'm going to have to spell it and then talk about numbers and but
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's what it means. Now you know.
Yeah, because you know what? I definitely was just like, yeah, I'll just follow Joel McDonald. Never looking at exactly what that username was. At yes to ats. That's fucking genius.
And I know you've answered this like a million times before, and I'm sorry because I have not listened to your other podcast. But right before I jumped on with you, I was telling my wife, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get on with someone here in a little bit, and she's like, what's this podcast called? And I was like, I think it's ProZD and Pals. And she's like, what's the ProZD for? And I was like, I don't know.
Oh God. Oh, I swear to you, not a single person knows, not even my wife. My wife doesn't even know. Like, it's so embarrassing because it is a name I came up with when I was like 12 or younger than that, elementary school maybe. And so it just was this username I've had for 25, 30, 25 just years. And I can never tell anyone what it stands for because it's so stupid.
If I guess it and ask you in private, would you tell me if I was right?
Here's the thing. I don't think it's guessable.
Okay.
I've given like clues before. Like there's parts of the meaning that aren't guessable, so no one could actually guess this. But I mean, hey, you know, if you want to shoot me what you think, I know people have had theories. None of them have been right, but.
Well, you at the very least need to like write it out and like put it in the lockbox, like under your bed or something, just in case something.
I would honestly rather it die with me. So
duly noted.
Yeah, but nobody knows. But yeah.